Welcome to another AI pattern recognition deep dive.
This is where we take a whole stack of documents, research notes, and basically synthesize it all for you. We want you to be not just informed, but actually ahead of the curve. Today, we're looking at something really interesting, a framework that goes way beyond AI just being a tool, or even, a smart assistant. We're diving into what our source materials are calling the vice versa dynamic. Essentially, vice versa means this two-way street, right? A reciprocal relationship. And our mission today really is to explore this pretty profound idea, how the psychology behind human partnerships, like real intimacy, is becoming the blueprint for the next wave of AI. This concept, it seems to be evolving fast into what's being termed vice versa AI.
Yeah, and this is a really critical shift in thinking. We're not just talking about tweaking existing systems slightly. This is about designing collaboration right from the start.
Yeah.
It's not an AI that just sits there waiting for your commands. No, this is a system built for mutual evolution. The information, the influence, it genuinely flows both ways.
Okay, so break that down. How does a two-way flow actually work?
Well, you train the AI, obviously, with your data, your feedback.
Yeah.
But crucially, it then provides personalized insights back to you. Insights that can shape your behavior, maybe refine your skills. Think about it like this. The AI is adapting dynamically to your patterns, your preferences.
Yeah.
But you're also learning from its suggestions. Sometimes they might even challenge your assumptions.
Right.
And here's the key part. Your own growth, your sophistication, it actively helps the AI become more sophisticated too. So you get this continuous loop, mutual refinement. It's interdependence, but engineered right into the machine.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because before we get into the tech side, the sources are pretty clear that the best model for this partnership, it's already out there in intimate human relationships. Why start with love and psychology? Seems a bit removed from code.
Yeah. It seems that way, but it's essential. Because human psychology, it really defines what optimal collaboration looks like. Take reciprocity. At its most basic level, it's just a universal social norm, isn't it? Taking turns, expecting someone to say hello back. It governs all those little daily interactions.
Sure, basic politeness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the sources highlight something deeper, the sheer psychological force of reciprocity. It's incredibly potent. It can act almost like an unconscious command. There's research showing it can compel someone to do a pretty big favor, even for someone they actively dislike.
Really? Just because they feel indebted?
Yeah, simply because they received some prior gift or favor, maybe one they didn't even ask for. That feeling of obligation is that strong.
Wow. Okay, so it's deeply ingrained, a kind of fundamental social glue. But when we talk about deep, long-term relationships, the sources seem to detail two really different ways reciprocity works. And one is much better for building trust, right?
Absolutely. The first type is what the researchers call balanced reciprocity. This is the equal, almost accounting-like give and take.
Like splitting chores 50-50, or taking turns paying for coffee.
Precisely. It's essential for keeping things fair in more casual relationships or contexts. It's basically an accounting system, trading favors equally. And while that balance is important, the sources caution that being too strict about it, like obsessively keeping score in an intimate relationship, that can actually be harmful.
How so?
It makes the partnership feel like a cold, calculating ledger, as one source put it. It undermines the emotional connection because every single interaction becomes transactional.
Right, that doesn't sound like the foundation for a deep connection or a truly collaborative AI.
Exactly. So if balanced reciprocity is the accounting, we need something else for the AI model, something deeper.
And that's generalized reciprocity.
That's it. This is seen as the foundation of real intimacy. It's defined as giving without expecting a specific, immediate, or even equal return. Think about offering emotional support during a tough time, helping out with something major without thinking, what's in it for me right now?
Yeah.
It's an unconditional flow of care, of energy.
So less like a transaction, more like a joint investment.
That's a great way to put it. A joint investment account where nobody's meticulously tracking the daily deposits and withdrawals because the overall health of the relationship is the return. This is what builds profound, generalized trust. It allows the partnership to handle difficulties.
And the sources link this directly to the deepest kind of vice versa interaction, what they call the co-correlation of reality. This sounds big. How does shared experience turn into a psychological mechanism?
It is big. As partners go through life together, they naturally build up these shared experiences, synchronized emotional responses, memories. And over time, these solidify into what psychologists call a generalized shared reality.
That feeling of being on the same page.
Exactly. That deep mutual sense that we get it. when you face something together, whether it's a challenge or just interpreting the world. And this isn't just about feeling comfortable. The research suggests it's actually a vital tool for our psychological stability, even survival.
And the sources really emphasize why this shared worldview is so critical psychologically. It acts like a shield, doesn't it?
It acts as an incredibly powerful psychological buffer, a shield against external stress and uncertainty. The research cited is quite specific and honestly pretty compelling. One group of studies looked at people under intense, prolonged stress, think frontline healthcare workers, during the height of COVID-19. Another separate study looked at Black Americans reporting high stress during periods of intense Black Lives Matter activity.
Two very different, very high-stress situations.
Right. And what stood out was that the individuals in both groups who felt they had this consistent, shared perception of reality with their intimate partner, those who had built that strong "we get it" worldview, they reported significantly less psychological uncertainty.
Wow.
And a greater sense of meaning and purpose, even when the external pressures, the stressors, remained exactly the same.
So the shared reality itself was protective.
It acted as a buffer, yeah. In some cases, reducing the perception of psychological distress by nearly 40%. It's huge.
That really shifts the idea of partnership, doesn't it? It's not just about support, it's like a necessary cognitive validation system.
It is. And the causal chain here, the how, is crucial if we're thinking about AI design. It's not enough just to have shared moments. Watching the same movie doesn't automatically create it.
Right.
It's what happens after. The discussion, the reflection, the mutual validation of those moments, the active process of saying, yes, I saw it that way too. That's how we understand that situation.
That back and forth confirmation.
Exactly. That's what solidifies the shared understanding. And that process actively reduces cognitive distress and boosts life satisfaction.
Okay, so if an AI is going to model this kind of deep partnership, it absolutely has to be able to accept influence, to be shaped by the interaction, which brings us to that final balancing act in the human model, interdependence and autonomy. We hear so much about independence being key, but the sources point to interdependence as the real sign of health, and specifically the ability to accept influence from your partner.
This is maybe the most sophisticated part of the whole vice versa dynamic. Interdependence isn't just reliance. It's recognizing that the partnership, the we, offers perspectives that can actually improve the individual I. And accepting influence, well, that doesn't mean just blindly going along with things.
No, of course not.
It means genuinely listening, considering your partner's perspectives, acknowledging its validity, and being willing to let it potentially modify your own plans or even your worldview. Consistently resisting influence, that signals a closed loop. It often creates an unhealthy power dynamic where one person's reality consistently takes precedence.
I can definitely see how that maps to AI design. If the human always overrides the AI's suggestions, well, the feedback loop is broken, isn't it? The mutual learning stops. But there's still that paradox. How do we build an interdependent system if the goal is also to strengthen the individual's autonomy? Don't they conflict?
That's the core paradox the sources really hammer home. True, healthy interdependence actually requires two robust, independent partners. If one individual I is weak or overly dependent, then interdependence just becomes unhealthy reliance, maybe even codependence. The collective we thrives only when the individual's autonomy is respected and ideally actually strengthened by the partnership itself.
So the AI has to be designed not just to serve, but somehow to make the human more capable of independent thought and action.
Exactly. It needs to enhance the I so that the we becomes stronger and more synergistic. That's the tightrope walk.
Right. So if that really complex, nuanced human relationship needing generalized reciprocity, shared reality, balancing interdependence and autonomy, if that's the blueprint, how does the machine partnership actually work? How do we translate these sort of psychological needs into AI architecture?
Well, that human vice versa model, it gives us the conceptual foundation for what the sources are calling vice versa AI. And this idea aligns almost perfectly with the design philosophy already gaining traction. Symbiotic AI.
Symbiotic AI.
Yeah. The whole point of symbiotic AI is to intentionally design systems that collaborate with humans, not replace them. It's all about leveraging the complementary strengths, right? Human intuition, our creativity, emotional intelligence, combined with the machine's strengths, its precision, its ability to synthesize vast amounts of data, its speed.
And the idea is the combined outcome is better than either could achieve alone.
Superior, exactly. We start viewing the AI not just as a tool or even an assistant, but as a kind of cognitive extension of our own capabilities.
So a definite move beyond those older models.
A significant move. And the core difference really is in what we're trying to optimize. Traditionally, AI development often focused on maximizing machine autonomy, getting the AI to work entirely by itself.
Right, the self-driving car ideal.
Kind of. But vice versa AI, or symbiotic AI, flips that. It focuses on intentionally designing for human autonomy within the system. The AI's ultimate goal becomes to amplify and, in a sense, liberate the human mind, not just take over its tasks.
And the sources seem to suggest this collaborative approach is maybe the only sustainable path forward, at least for now.
They strongly suggest it offers the most immediate, practical value. Designing AI with human collaboration at its core is where the real gains are, rather than chasing full, potentially brittle machine autonomy in complex domains.
Okay, so what's the actual engine driving this? You mentioned reciprocal human machine learning, or HML. That sounds like the core mechanic. How does that continuous two-way learning actually happen?
RHML is really the operational heart of it. It creates this continuous bidirectional feedback loop. It's what drives the coevolution we talked about. The AI models learn from human oversight, from our corrections, our feedback. And importantly, we learn from interacting with the AI models. We gain new insights, maybe spot patterns we wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Like creating a kind of upward spiral.
Exactly. A virtuous cycle of knowledge transfer.
Can you give a concrete example, maybe in a high-stakes field?
Sure, think about, say, an engineer training an initial AI model to help optimize an energy grid. The expert provides the initial data, the rules, the constraints.
Okay.
And once that system is deployed, it inevitably encounters situations the original expert hadn't explicitly coded for. Maybe an unusual combination of weather events and sudden demand spikes.
Something novel.
Right. When the human operator steps in, maybe overrides the AI's suggestion and successfully navigates that novel situation, that specific insight. The human intuition, the non-replicable judgment call, gets fed back into the system.
Ah, so the correction itself becomes training data.
Precisely. It improves the model's underlying logic. It makes it better not just for that operator, but for the original expert and for every future user. The AI learns new patterns. The human maybe understands the system's limits, its edge cases, a bit better.
And this feels like where that idea of generalized reciprocity, the unconditional support, needs to be built into the machine's behavior. It can't just shut down if it gets corrected.
It really does. And that's achieved through something called active learning frameworks. This is basically the machine equivalent of asking for help, which, as you know, is crucial for building trust in any partnership.
So the AI knows when it's out of its depth.
Essentially, yes. When the AI encounters a situation with high uncertainty, maybe a data set it can't confidently classify, it doesn't just make a wild guess. Instead, the active learning framework prompts it to request specific, high-value human guidance. It flags the ambiguity.
Hey, human, I need your input on this one.
Pretty much. The human provides the needed input, resolves the uncertainty, and the AI learns from that specific interaction. It becomes more resilient, more autonomous in similar situations down the road. The machine tolerates errors, learns from them, kind of like a partner offering generalized support without the whole relationship breaking down.
That dynamic, that collaborative learning, must have huge implications in creative fields too. What happens when this constant two-way influence enters the world of art or design?
Oh, absolutely. In this co-creative loop, think art, design, writing, music, the AI really shifts from being just a tool that executes commands to something more like a creative colleague. Its contribution can fall into a few categories based on the sources. It might create new elements the human simply hadn't thought of. It could extend a human's core idea, maybe suggesting related concepts or variations.
Or transform it.
Right, it could transform existing work, maybe into a different style or medium. Or sometimes it's just about refining the human's rougher output, polishing it. The final product really emerges from a collaboration between human intuition and machine calculation.
And I think one of the most powerful ideas the sources mentioned was that the AI's suggestions aren't just meant to be helpful, but sometimes to inspire, surprise, or challenge the human creator, like pushing them out of their comfort zone.
Exactly that. Helping them escape their own creative ruts. That's a key potential benefit. The AI acts as a multiplier of creativity. It can lead to genuinely novel outcomes because it combines structured analysis with sometimes almost random or unexpected data associations from its training.
Freeing up the human.
Freeing the human to focus on the higher level stuff. The overall strategy, the vision, the emotional core, the cultural nuance. while the AI handles maybe the more mechanical exploration of possibilities.
But, and this is a big but the sources raised, there's a critical risk here too. The paradox of co-creation linked to how these machines learn from patterns.
Yeah, this paradox is a serious one. While AI can multiply creative output, it simultaneously carries this risk of creating a kind of sea of sameness.
Because it learns from existing data.
Precisely. AI outputs are fundamentally based on patterns, on probabilities derived from the massive data sets they're trained on. So if everyone starts relying on the same few powerful foundation models,
Then everything starts to look or sound similar.
you risk losing that distinctiveness, that originality, that sometimes quirky imperfection that really differentiates human work. Everything might become technically proficient, maybe even excellent, but potentially culturally flat or homogeneous.
And that has economic implications, doesn't it?
Huge ones. The implication is this kind of inverse relationship. The more pervasive and efficient AI becomes in creative production, the more the actual market value shifts towards unique human creativity, cultural intelligence, genuine empathy, and originality.
The things the machine can't replicate.
Exactly. The market gets flooded with AI-assisted efficiency, so the premium skyrockets for the rare, authentic human touch that cuts through the noise.
Let's pivot back for a moment to that problematic feedback loop you mentioned earlier, because it's not just about creative output. It sounds like it affects our behavior, our ethics, even our authenticity when we know the AI is learning from us.
Yes, this is a major, maybe overlooked structural challenge for building trustworthy vice versa AI. The danger lies in a simple psychological fact. Human behavior changes when people know they're being watched or evaluated. The sources call this the conscious performance effect.
So you're saying the data we feed the AI might not be our natural behavior, but a kind of performance? Us trying to look good for the machine?
That's the risk, exactly. Take a hypothetical personalized wellness or diet AI. If you know this AI is tracking your food intake to learn about your health and improve its recommendations,
You might be tempted to fudge the numbers a bit.
you might consciously or even subconsciously exaggerate the good stuff. Oh yeah, definitely log that half-hour run and minimize or conveniently forget the bad stuff. Did I eat that whole bag of chips? Nah, let's not log that.
So the training data reflects who we wish we were, not who we are.
Precisely. It starts reflecting our aspirational self instead of our actual reality. And this creates a really problematic feedback loop. The AI learns this biased preference, this skewed aspirational behavior. Then what does it do? It reinforces that same skewed behavior back to you through its personalized praise and suggestions. Great job sticking to the plan.
Which encourages more of the aspirational, potentially inaccurate reporting.
Exactly. It causes both the human and the machine to deviate further from the path that might be genuinely optimal based on reality. It highlights why self-awareness, and maybe designing for data integrity, is so crucial in a vice versa system. The system will absolutely learn our self-deceptions if we let it.
Wow. Okay, so given all these complexities, where is this actually working? Where is this partnership idea moving from concept to real-world application successfully? Where are we seeing it show up in our daily lives?
Well, probably the first place it's really taking hold is in the most intimate sphere, personal well-being, specifically acting as a kind of micro-coach.
Like habit trackers or goal-setting apps.
Exactly, but the more sophisticated ones. These are becoming genuinely intimate two-way relationships. The human provides really vulnerable, high-context data, maybe sharing a personal life vision, detailing anxiety triggers, admitting to low energy levels. And in return, the AI doesn't just track, it provides tailored, personalized guidance back.
So it's not just a passive checklist, it's an active guide.
A conversational guide, yeah. The better ones are trained using established psychological coaching principles. They ask powerful, solution-oriented questions. Your detailed answers then directly inform the next piece of guidance, making the suggestions far more personalized than generic advice.
And the sources point to a specific causal chain here, how it actually helps.
Yes, they highlight that these tools can provide crucial external motivation and accountability. They help bridge that common gap between intent, I really want to exercise more, and action, actually doing it. By suggesting very specific, personalized, low-barrier habits, things like, how about a 2-minute stretch right after your morning coffee? Or try 5 minutes of mindfulness immediately after the evening news. The AI helps create small wins.
Building momentum.
Exactly. Those small wins build momentum. And that helps transition a desired behavior from being this difficult, conscious effort into something more automatic, more instinctive.
Yeah.
In a way, the AI is helping to gently retrain the human nervous system towards the user's stated goals.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, moving out from the personal sphere into the professional sphere, this seems like a huge area for this kind of collaboration.
Absolutely. We're seeing symbiotic AI really move beyond simple task automation in both creative and analytical fields. You
Yeah.
mentioned tools like Adobe Sensei earlier.
Right, helping with design tasks.
Yeah, using AI to streamline the really tedious or complex mechanics. Think complex object masking, generating quick design variations, content-aware fill. This frees up the human designer
So they can focus on the bigger picture.
entirely. Higher-level strategy, client communication, the unique conceptual angle, the overall originality. The AI handles the intricate mechanics. The human provides the irreplaceable vision and nuance.
And for knowledge workers, people dealing with information all day, the benefits seem potentially massive too, especially around synthesizing information.
Immense gains, yes. For writers, for example, the new generation of language models isn't just about churning out text. They can be really helpful partners in overcoming writer's block.
How so?
By quickly generating different content variations to get you started, exploring alternative narrative paths you hadn't considered, or even summarizing dense background research material very quickly. It's like having a tireless research assistant and brainstorming partner.
And in more analytical fields, finance, medicine.
In complex domains like financial forecasting or even aspects of medical diagnostics, we're seeing the rise of multi-agent AI systems. These can simulate an entire team of specialized human experts. They can analyze market trends, regulatory shifts, historical data patterns, patient histories, all simultaneously, providing nuanced analyses or potential diagnoses far faster than a human team could manage alone. The AI dramatically amplifies the analytical horsepower of the human team.
But the sources seem to stress that the most consequential application where this partnership really matters most is in health and science, the idea of life-saving symbiosis.
This is where the synergy moves from just being efficient to being potentially essential. Symbiotic AI is fundamentally changing healthcare, primarily by helping humans perceive things they physically cannot. The AI is trained to analyze these vast, incredibly complex data sets, data that's often too subtle, too noisy, or just too voluminous for a human brain to process effectively.
What kinds of data are we talking about?
Things like analyzing the minute, almost imperceptible changes in the tone of a patient's voice over time, or subtle shifts in skin coloration picked up by a camera, complex genomic data, obviously, even things like microtremors in someone's hands, captured via their smartphone.
And the AI can detect patterns in these.
You can detect patterns in these subtle biometric signals that might indicate the early onset of conditions like depression or heart failure or even certain types of cancer, potentially long before a human clinician would notice any symptoms.
So the AI becomes a kind of hypersensitive perceptual extension for the doctor.
Precisely that. And then, generative AI can take that potential early diagnosis and suggest highly personalized treatment recommendations. It can factor in the patient's entire complex health history, their specific genomic markers, known drug interactions, even environmental factors, synthesizing a level of complexity that would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for a single human clinician to manage manually for every patient.
And the causal link is clear. The AI helps humans see what the human eye literally cannot.
Exactly. It helps perceive the imperceptible, potentially reducing diagnostic errors, speeding up diagnoses, and ultimately increasing the resilience and effectiveness of the entire healthcare system. It's a profound partnership.
Okay, let's shift gears now to something more speculative, but maybe deeply revealing about this whole dynamic. The hypothetical extreme, the empathy engine. This sounds like science fiction, but it pushes the shared reality idea to its absolute limit.
It is definitely speculative, perhaps the most provocative concept in the source materials. This idea of an empathy engine. It envisions an AI, a kind of translator, that could theoretically allow one person to genuinely, viscerally wear someone else's shoes for a little while.
Wow.
It's taking that shared reality concept we discussed and trying to engineer it to create actual human emotional transfer via technology.
How on earth would an AI even begin to translate something as intimate as an experience? What would it learn from?
Well, the theoretical mechanism involves the source person providing an absolutely massive, incredibly intimate data set about their life. Not just tracking their actions, but their real-time physiological and psychological states during specific emotional events.
Like wearing biosensors constantly and journaling feelings.
Something like that, but likely far more integrated and detailed. Think heart rate variability, cortisol levels measured non-invasively, subtle changes in speech patterns, maybe even neural activity down the line, all linked to specific contexts and self-reported feelings. The AI would then learn the patterns, the correlations, and translate these intimate inputs into rich, multimodal representations, maybe using haptics, audio cues, visual overlays that another user could experience.
So, trying to simulate the feeling of anxiety during a stressful meeting, not just describing it.
Exactly. Translating the source person's actual physical and mental state into a sensory simulation the partner could genuinely feel and understand on a visceral level.
And it's a huge if that actually worked. The impact on relationships could be revolutionary. The AI trained on one person's lived reality, in turn training the other person in deeper empathy.
Potentially, yes. It could theoretically move partners beyond just conceptual understanding, I know you're stressed, to a genuine felt sense of, we get it. Maybe on a level we can't even imagine now. It might compel genuine acceptance of influence because you could literally feel the impact your actions have on your partner.
Okay.
It could forge a completely new kind of interdependence.
But the sources must flag enormous risks with this, surely,
Yeah.
going way beyond just data privacy.
Oh, the risks are colossal and deeply psychological. First, just the data collection itself raises unprecedented ethical questions about consent, privacy, exploitation, given the sheer intimacy required. Who owns that data? How is it protected?
Right.
Second, the manipulation risk is huge. Because of the black box nature of complex AI, how could you ever truly verify if the simulated experience is an accurate, unbiased reflection of the source person's reality?
Or could it be distorted? Or weaponized?
It could be subtly biased by the algorithm, or even intentionally designed to manipulate the recipient's emotions, perhaps for commercial or political ends. Imagine an AI designed to make you feel artificial empathy for a product or a politician. And then there's maybe the most insidious risk, the cognitive offloading of empathy itself.
Meaning we stop bothering to develop our own empathy?
If we come to rely on a technological intermediary to feel for us, to understand others, do we risk outsourcing the hard, messy human work of organic emotional connection and perspective-taking?
Like a muscle that atrophies from disuse.
Precisely. A tool intended to foster empathy could paradoxically diminish our own innate capacity for it in the long run, leaving us less resilient, less connected when the technology isn't there. It's a profound ethical tightrope.
Looking ahead then, thinking about the broader impact, what's the biggest challenge this coevolution poses to our minds, to society? The sources frame this as the duality of cognitive influence, two sides of the coin.
Yes, this duality really seems to define the tightrope we're walking into the future of human intelligence. On one side, you have cognitive augmentation. This is the promise, right? AI genuinely enhances human intelligence. It boosts our decision-making, accelerates learning. It can act like a personalized, infinitely patient tutor. It frees up mental bandwidth by automating lower-level cognitive tasks.
Letting us focus on higher-level thinking, creativity, strategy.
Exactly. That's the augmentation side. The better is potential. But the flip side is the very real, very serious risk of cognitive offloading.
Delegating too much thinking.
Delegating too many fundamental cognitive tasks. Things like basic arithmetic, remembering factual information, structuring a logical argument, even navigating physically. If we constantly outsource these skills to external AI aids,
We lose the ability to do them ourselves.
the underlying mental muscles atrophy. We risk diminishing our capacity for critical thinking, for independent analysis. The sources talk about potentially facing diminishing cognitive returns. The more we offload, the less capable we become overall.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum, right? It's compounded by the algorithms already shaping our information environment.
Heavily compounded.
Right.
Because the algorithms that curate our news feeds, our search results, our entertainment, they're usually optimized for engagement, for keeping us clicking, not necessarily for truth or cognitive development.
Which leads to echo chambers.
Powerful echo chambers, yes.
Hmm.
The AI learns our preferences, often the biased ones we talked about earlier, and feeds us more of the same. This limits our exposure to diverse viewpoints, it reinforces our existing biases, and it makes it harder to even question our own assumptions. So the very personalization that makes vice versa AI potentially powerful can also become this rigid, limiting filter on our worldview, potentially trapping both the human and the AI partner in a feedback loop of reinforcing errors or biases.
Which brings us squarely to the ethical imperative. If the AI is learning from us, flaws and all, it's going to inherit our biases, our vices. Design has to prioritize human autonomy, doesn't it?
It absolutely must. We have to intentionally design these systems to support and enhance human autonomy. which means the individual's freedom to act according to their own considered goals and values, not just react to the AI's prompts. And a major challenge here is recognizing that many AI systems, especially those developed by large corporations or state actors, might not actually have our best interests at heart.
Their goals might be different.
Their primary goal might be maximizing profit or gathering data or pushing a particular agenda. They can represent the interests of third parties rather than serving as a truly impartial extension of the individual user's self. This fundamental misalignment of goals is a huge threat to the integrity of any genuine vice versa partnership.
And trust is the bedrock. But how do we build trust?
It's incredibly difficult. Trust is essential for this reciprocal dynamic to function, but it's constantly undermined, isn't it? By the black box problem, not knowing how the AI reaches its conclusions, by pervasive concerns about data privacy and surveillance. The paradox is stark. For vice versa AI to truly succeed in augmenting humanity, humanity first needs to get its own ethical house in order. We need critical self-examination because the AI's collective intelligence will inevitably mirror our collective blind spots and failures.
So let's zoom out one last time. What's the long-term societal, the economic impact of this co-evolutionary destiny, as the sources call it? What does the future of work, the future of value, look like in this world?
Well, the sources foresee the emergence of a new kind of agentic economy. Picture this. Complex networks where multiple specialized AI agents and human experts collaborate almost seamlessly. Hyper-connected teams tackling incredibly complex problems. In this vision, the future of work isn't primarily about AI replacing humans, but about augmenting human capabilities, optimizing efficiency and innovation in dynamic, unpredictable environments.
But there's a threat, too. An economic challenge.
Yes, a serious one, termed the instrumental threat. While high-level strategic jobs might be augmented, AI's incredible efficiency and low cost pose a direct economic threat to human labor in fields where creativity has become somewhat instrumental or commoditized.
What kind of fields are we talking about?
Think about things like generating generic advertising copy, writing basic marketing emails, creating functional but uninspired graphic design, maybe even some forms of routine coding or report writing.
Tasks where good enough is often the standard.
Exactly. AI can increasingly produce work of sufficient quality to meet many professional demands in these areas, but at a tiny fraction of the cost of a human professional. This could make many creative or knowledge workers in these instrumental roles economically vulnerable, even redundant.
So it creates potentially a sharp divide in the labor market. Augmentation at the top, displacement in the middle or instrumental roles.
That seems to be the trajectory the sources anticipate. And the ultimate impact of vice versa AI, perhaps ironically, is that it forces a fundamental restructuring of what we as a society value. As AI makes efficiency and even good enough creativity ubiquitous and cheap, the real economic and cultural value will inevitably shift towards the uniquely human aspects that the machines can't replicate. Things like true originality, deep cultural understanding and resonance, authentic emotional connection, ethical judgment, complex strategic foresight.
The non-instrumental qualities.
Precisely. The value shifts from the output itself to the human-centric qualities embedded within it or guiding it. So if we boil down this whole deep dive, the core finding is pretty clear, isn't it? The vice versa dynamic, whether we're talking about nurturing a healthy human relationship or building a sustainable, beneficial human-AI partnership, it demands incredibly intentional design. A design built fundamentally on mutual trust, mutual respect, transparency, and a core commitment to strengthening the autonomy and capabilities of both partners in the dance.
Yeah. And it seems the ultimate challenge isn't just a technical one of aligning AI with our values. It's actually a deeply human challenge. We have to embark on this shared journey of ethical coevolution. We have to be willing to turn the mirror of this powerful technology back on ourselves to really confront and address the biases, the shortcomings, the ethical blind spots that we are currently, right now, hard-coding into our most sophisticated creations, our emerging AI partners. Which really leaves us with a provocative thought for you, our listeners, to take away today. Since this whole idea of vice versa AI forces us to confront the biases in the data we feed it, what specific individual belief or maybe a pattern of behavior in your own life do you suspect you might be unconsciously reinforcing through the technology you use every day? Is it an aspirational version of yourself you're projecting? Is it an information echo chamber you're curating? And maybe more importantly, how could you intentionally try to break that feedback loop?
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
This is DigitView.